Right, today I've come to Cornwall to hide behind this stone because it's the only place I can escape from the blasted wind and get clean audio. And look, there's a stone with a hole. That's what I've come to see. Manatol, which means stone with a hole. Right, so standing on this hill is Menantol, these three standing stones with an almost perfectly circular hole carved through the middle one. Menantol in Old Cornish means stone with hole, and lo and behold, we've got a stone with a hole. This is a Neolithic or perhaps Bronze Age site. We're not exactly sure what it was originally. One of the suggestions is it may have been a set of standing stones, and that the central one may have been some kind of capstone for a barrow or some other ceremonial position. It's quite likely that it was rearranged at some point later on. The stone with the hole has a lot of folklore in it. According to traditional legends, it's guarded by a sacred pixie who would keep the stones, and there's all kinds of legends about that, stealing children, turning them into demons, that sort of thing. And also it was viewed to be a fertility symbol. Supposedly on a full moon, a woman wanting to become pregnant could come to here and pass herself through the hole, and if she did that successfully, she would become pregnant quite soon after. Children were also marched up to this hole from down in the valleys, where they would be passed through the hole in the attempt to cure rickets. They would go through it up to 9 times, and this would achieve absolutely nothing. This part of Cornwall is absolutely full of Neolithic sites. About 1 kilometre further up the hill there is a set of standing stones. There is a singular pillar nearby. There's an old tin mine up there, that's not Stone Age. And down in the valley you get all kinds of standing stones as well. It's a real treasure trove if you're ever in the area. And the heathland is just beautiful. Right, today I've come to Cornwall and I'm once again taking shelter from the vicious Cornish wind, which is actually only a gentle breeze, but boy does it sound on the microphone. And today I've come to see the Lanyon Quoits. The Lanyon Quoit was originally put up sometime in the Neolithic period. It is a remarkable piece of Neolithic engineering. 3 uprights hold up a huge capstone. This would have originally weighed 13 tons, and it would have possibly been originally covered by earth to form a barrow, that in the interior of which would have been formed by these stones, as we've seen in other barrows around Britain. Hello, Mr. Wind. If it was covered with the earth wore away over time and revealed the stones as a very imposing figure on the landscape, and is considered by many to be a symbol of Cornwall. It is officially classed as a dolmen, which is a type of structure where a single capstone is rested upon many smaller stones. And in the Neolithic times it would have had 4 stones, but unfortunately one of those stones fell down. In 1815 the entire piece collapsed due to a storm. Many years of the landscape changing around it meant that its foundations became unsound and the entire stones collapsed. But in 1824, a Royal Navy engineer decided to rewrite them. So originally you had 4 uprights. That was reduced to 3, as the 4th one wouldn't come back into position. The capstone also lost fragments, so it is not its original size. Before 1815, a horse and rider used to be able to pass under this stone. Now, really only children. I can't. I mean, if I stand up fully straight, look, I'm almost the same height, which is a shame. But, yes, there we go. Now, I think this is that 4th stone. I think this is the one that couldn't be put back into position. And round here we can see some stone slabs, which I think came off the capstone. These features can be found all over Britain and in many other parts of Europe, but there are a surprisingly large number of them in Cornwall. Whether or not that's just because they survived and others didn't, or whether they were more prevalent in this area, isn't known. Right, today I've come to St Just on the west coast of Cornwall to see Ballawall Barrow. Located literally metres away from the southwest coastal path and only a few miles north of Land's End, Ballawall Barrow is a must-see if you're interested in walking around Cornwall. Before 1878, Ballawall Barrow was completely concealed by debris from tin mines. There are lots of tin mines in the area, and you can still see one of the towers of that tin mine today. It was discovered by William Borlase, who was a famous Cornish antiquarian. Unfortunately, the nature of archaeology in the 1870s, 1880s meant that this unique and complex Bronze Age funeral monument was kind of wrecked. The outer wall was completely rebuilt, losing what were in his records 5 stone-lined chambers. And they're just completely gone. The inner mound does still contain some of these chambers. It's thought that the Bronze Age people deliberately created this to be a magnificent monument for their ancestors, a funeral monument in the same way we have the cenotaph in London or the World War I monuments in Flanders. This would have been for extremely prestigious people in a naturally occurring, remarkable location. Inside the barrow you get Bronze Age pottery and cremated bone, which makes it pretty obvious that this is a funeral site, but there is so much damage in the excavation and rebuilding work that accurately gauging what this was for and how it was supposed to look is extremely difficult. That being said, it does create quite a dramatic outcrop now, as I said, just a few hundred metres from the coastal path. Menantol, Lanyon-Coits and Ballowall Barrow are all relatively easy to get to from each other. They're about 6 miles apart and can be driven between each other very, very quickly. And if you wanted to hike between them, there are numerous other small Neolithic and Bronze and Iron Age sites that you can find along the road and the footpaths between them. So if you have a day to spend in the far west of Cornwall, I absolutely recommend visiting the 3 of them.